Is meaning real? I mean, obviously it is. Like, things have meanings. There's a meaning to sentences and stuff like these. Except, what if it isn't? Well, that's what nihilists believe. Nihilism being the doctrine that nothing actually exists or that values or existence are meaningless. But is that reality? Well, today we'll talk about meaning. And determining the existence of meaning is a very problematic thing. So let's start with something simple, things which actually do exist. Like, for example, atoms. Atoms do exist. I mean, we know they exist, part because we can measure them. So yeah, that's a pretty simple thing to state. Atoms exist. Then we can move on to compounds. Based on these atoms, we can define different compounds, different acids or bases or anything you want, which also do exist. I mean, we can take these atoms and then we can combine them, we can create a compound. But the higher we move on the ladder of abstraction, the tougher it is to state with confidence that things actually exist. For example, dogs. Do dogs exist? Whilst a definition for an atom could be rather simple because you can observe them directly, definition for a compound could be simple because there are atoms arranged in certain ways that we can also describe perfectly. Definition for a dog is a bit more problematic. I mean, if you compare something that looks like this to something that looks like this, it is completely different. I mean, the atoms, yes, it has the same atoms in them, but that's not that difficult, there aren't that many of them. They are arranged in a completely different ways. The scale is off, the shape is off, the color is off. So why do both these things are considered a dog? Well, as weird as it may seem, we can actually create a definition for a dog. The answer isn't as satisfactory as just one sentence, but there exists a way for humans to get a definition for what the dog is. And that comes from the fact that we know what a dog is. If you look at a dog, you know it's a dog, which basically means that if you were to take a human brain, plop it on a table, then you could say, there, this object right here contains information about what a dog is. This definition would be highly complex and incredibly convoluted, but yeah, it would be able to define a dog. Which brings us to the issue of meaning. Because meaning is different than the things I've described so far. Meaning isn't material. I mean, meaning doesn't have weight to it, doesn't have mass. Meaning is a concept. And that makes it a bit harder to grasp. Now, as an example of something that does not exist, we could take purpose. I mean, what is the purpose of something? For example, what is the purpose of a screwdriver? I mean, it would be really simple, right? The purpose of the screwdriver is to screw screws. It's simple stuff, am I right? Except what if I want to use it as a paperweight? I mean, it can be used as a paperweight, right? It wouldn't be that difficult. What if I want to use it as ammunition? I mean, yeah, I can certainly, or as a weapon, could certainly work. What if I want to use it to plug a hole in the wall? If a hole is small enough, sure, why not? That's the issue with purpose. Things don't really have a clear-cut purpose. Using a screwdriver as a means of transportation wouldn't be exactly smart, nor efficient, but it would do the trick, which basically means that we don't really have a single purpose for a screwdriver, we have an infinite amount of them. Some may be better than others, but all of them are valid, because why not? And this brings us to the issue, if the purpose of something is everything, would that purpose even exist? I know I'm going really VSauce-like on you, but hear me out. If we assume that the purpose of something is everything, then the purpose becomes useless. I mean, why would we even mention the purpose of something if the purpose of everything is everything? It is a useless concept then. And that's how things become meaningless, because we have two options. Either accept that the screwdriver has no objective purpose, in which case it is meaningless, or accept that it has all the purposes, in which case it is just like every single other object, or in other words, it is meaningless. And here we come to the biggest issue I have with nihilism, because believing that nothing has meaning is already depressing enough, but what nihilists do is they also add science into the mix and basically claim that nihilism is supported by science, which, I mean, not really. Because even though it seems as if we can only accept these two truths, there's a third one which would be vastly more important. Yes, I do agree. When it comes to objective meaning, the screwdriver has no meaning because, well, it really doesn't. It can have zero purposes or an infinite amount. Doesn't change a single thing. But there is a meaning which is much more important than the objective meaning. There exists a subjective meaning. I could use the screwdriver as a spoon. It wouldn't be really great, but I could do it. Except, why? If I have spoons to do what spoons do and screwdrivers to screw the screws. That is something that's really often overlooked when it comes to nihilism. The fact that subjective meaning is way more important. If you sit down to play a game of chess, then you could just come to the board and be like, well, you know, pawn has no meaning, which basically means that it cannot really move in any way, because moves also have no meaning, just like the board has no meaning, the game of chess has no meaning. But that would be really bland and you wouldn't get any enjoyment out of it. On the other hand, you could just accept that for that specific situation, for these two human beings that are playing, with the certain rules of the game, the pawn suddenly gains subjective meaning. And this piece of wood, which could be used for many things, has two possible moves. Go forward once or go forward twice. That's why even though nihilists would like you to believe that when it comes to science, objective meaning is non-existent. Things, as I said many times throughout this video, have very much useless objective meaning. They really often omit the fact that we as humans really don't care about objective meaning. I mean, even if there was an object with objective meaning, what would it give us? It would give us limitations on how we can use it, but that's about it. And we as humans don't really care that much for limitations, considering that we really like to achieve feats thought to be impossible. That's why I take joy and pride in that fact, because this extends to many more things than just pawns. If you are lost, if you are getting many contradicting opinions on what you should do with your life, just remember the only thing that actually matters is subjective meaning, which means the only thing that matters is your meaning. If there is something that you really like doing in life, then do it. Don't care about what anyone else says because, well, they have their own subjective meanings. You don't have to care about that. If you like to paint, paint. If you like to swim, swim. Even if you like to play Genshin Impact or League of Legends or some other controversial game, play it. If it brings you joy, who is anyone else to judge? Unless you like doing something which hurts other people, then that's not really all that cool, but humans have a really nice system in their mind that basically created by the evolution, which basically tells us that we shouldn't like hurting other people. It is actually an evolutionary advantage when you don't hurt like other people who are also trying to protect you as a group. So if you do like hurting other people or doing something that hurts other people, I would really recommend consulting a specialist, like consulting someone who might help you with that, so that then you can go back to normal life. Or if you or other scenario, which I also should mention, if you are depressed and if nothing brings you joy, then that is also curable. It might seem hopeless, but it never is. Because, yeah, as I mentioned, we as human beings were created to actually experience happiness. So, there we go. Subjective meaning, my favorite kind. For now, that'll be it. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day. Bye!